Welcome to The Art of Adventure. This is episode 266 with Chen Lehner. The Art of Adventure is the podcast that helps you travel the world, run your business, and embark on an epic quest. I'm your host, lead explorer, and guide, Derek Loudermilk. You can check out the show notes for this episode at derekloudermilk.com, and don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by Publishizer. Publishizer is the crowdfunding literary agency that I used to launch my last two books. And they've been super helpful with the whole process, from refining the idea to writing the proposal to funding the project, and then getting in front of traditional publishers, large international publishers, and the publishing contract, and basically the whole process. And probably I wouldn't have become an author if it wasn't for the Publishizer team. You know, they're telling me like, this is a good idea, or that's a bad idea. And really giving me the push that I needed to go from just kicking around this idea of a book to actually writing. And lots of other authors that go through Publishizer find the same thing. So if you've been thinking about writing a book, then they have a contest starting August 1st. It's the Business Impact Book Proposal Contest. And this is for social media marketers, podcasters, coaches, speakers, women in leadership, activists, founders, trendsetters, educators, entertainers. Basically, if you're listening to this podcast, then you probably will fall into that category if you have a book idea. And it's going to be fun. You know, it's a contest, a little bit of gamification. You can win some money, and it's pretty simple. You go to publishizer.com/contest/2019/business impact, and you could probably search for Business Impact Contest on the Publishizer page. And you just go and you submit your idea for a book, and they will get in touch with you and help you get things started from there. In today's episode, I have my good friend, Chen Lehner. And now Chen is an amazing copywriter. Probably I've learned more from him about persuasive writing than anybody else. And he's quickly grown a six-figure business running ad campaigns for other businesses, including campaigns that have done six figures in just a couple of days. And he also teaches other people how to write persuasively and write sales copy. So at the end of the episode, you're going to get some of Chen's best copywriting tips. But I was really interested in how he learned to get so good at this skill so fast. So in the beginning of the episode, we dig into just how he was able to really get to the top of his game in copywriting. And one of the things that I really love about Chen is his motivation for getting good at this. It's not just to earn money, but he considers himself to be a healer and thinks that if he wants to help humanity, then he needs to understand how people change and human behavior and psychology so that he can help us all get to a better humanity, a better world. So without further ado, here is Chen Lehner. Chen, welcome to The Art of Adventure.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And for the listener, I'm excited because Chen and I were roommates in January. And what I learned about Chen was that he's just really good at taking something and learning it and then explaining it, like turning it around and teaching it. And I like to think that's a skill that I have as well. But you do it in it's hard to describe, in a very, very clean and easy to understand way. So yeah, I just really appreciate when someone is good at explaining things.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm going to start off with a non-copy related question. If you were in search of the best gift for someone, how would you approach that problem, finding the perfect gift?
That's a good question. How would I approach finding the perfect gift for someone? I think the first thing that I would do would get in touch with all of us, and I would ask them questions to get an understanding of the person. And it would depend on how well I knew them. Probably still do the same thing just to get new ideas. And if I didn't know them really well, I might invite them out for a drink or like for tea or something, and kind of surreptitiously come up with ideas, like ask leading questions to come up with ideas. What are some things that get you really excited, and what do you what have you always wanted you haven't been able to do, or stuff like that. And then come up with an idea based on their answers to those kinds of questions. Yeah. And if all else failed, I would just stalk them on Facebook.
Chen, I'm going to ask you a two-part question. First,
Cool.
What is the most amazing gift that you have ever gotten?
Most amazing gift that I've ever gotten. I don't know about the most amazing gift that I've ever gotten, but like what's coming to mind right now is 2 weeks ago, my partner Robin bought me a card and wrote a really sweet message inside of it and left it in my underwear and sock drawer where I would find it in the morning. And so when I got out of bed in the morning, I opened up the drawer and there was this little card there from her with this really sweet message saying how proud she was of me for starting CrossFit and really acknowledging me for all of the work that I've been doing. And something about that just really touched me, and I started crying because no one had ever done something like that before. So that was probably one of the most amazing gifts that I've ever received, even though it was relatively small, but the gesture was what really meant a lot to me.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome. I asked Heidi, my wife, to write me a letter like that for my birthday, telling me the things that she that she liked about me, or the things she was proud of. Because I was like, I could really use this right now. So I recently just received a very similar letter. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Less of a surprise, but still great to read it. So then the follow-up question is how you would think about finding or giving the best gift to someone, whether it's your wife or anybody, really.
Yeah. I would go about finding the best gift for them. Really, at first I would follow my intuition. Second, I would ask myself, what is something that they've been saying they want that I know they need, that they wouldn't necessarily get for themselves? And I'd probably go out and talk to their friends, depending on how well I knew them, just to get a sense of what their friends were saying they wanted and what their friends were saying they were excited about. But I think I do like more useful gifts, or things that people get excited about that they wouldn't normally get for themselves. So like for me, I always ask people on Christmas to get me Legos, because I would never go out and buy them for myself, but I always ask other people to, because that's my favorite thing to get as a gift. So
nice.
I would go and ask their friends, like, what is this person really, what makes them really excited? Have you picked up on anything that they've been saying they've wanted or they've been wanting? And then I'd go and get that type of thing. If I didn't know them very well, I would invite them out to a tea or coffee or something, and just have a conversation with them and get to know them a little bit better, and ask them some leading questions about what they get excited about, and questions that would lead to answers that I could use to choose a gift.
So this is a really interesting answer, because I didn't know if this was going to connect with the rest of our conversation, but I feel like it does in a lot of ways, because you're talking about trying to understand someone better and then surprising them and all these things. It seems like it's almost adjacent to copywriting, which is kind of rad. Could you tell us, when you think about copywriting, like what is your sort of like bird's eye meta view of what it is?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you picked up on that, because I was thinking the same thing, that my process for picking out a gift to be the same. Same as getting started on writing a piece of copy. So, yeah. What is my bird's eye view of copywriting, though? I mean, by definition, copywriting is salesmanship in print. So it's taking your skill as a salesperson and translating it into the written word. And just to define salesperson, I define salesperson as someone who helps other people meet their urgent needs. And it's not like the used car lot salesperson. A salesperson is really someone who guide someone through the process of making a decision that will improve their life. Usually that's to buy something, associated with a salesperson, but salesperson could also be selling an idea, like a religious figure or something like that. They're selling ideas. And so really, my perspective of a salesperson is you're helping someone improve their life by helping them make that decision. And so copywriting is that skill of helping someone make a decision, make a choice that will improve their life through the written word. And of course, like you just picked up, the first step in doing that is actually doing research and figuring out what this person actually wants. So actually going out and talking to them, or people that you want to help, and like, what do these people really want? What are they struggling with? What are their secret dreams, desires that they have? And then feeding their own language back to them in a way that connects with them where they're at, and then guides them to a decision.
I really like how you put that the salesperson helps someone meet their urgent needs. It's a very clean way of putting it. And I mean, like, it's coming from a place of generosity and like, we're looking out for someone. And I think there's a lot of negative connotations around sales, and there's a lot of things we know about psychology that get people to do things. And it's, I think I shared this with you, that I was reading I Am Malala, the book written by the girl who was shot by the Taliban, and she was saying how they used so many of these sales and persuasion ideas to recruit jihadists. And I was like, oh my God, this is so powerful stuff, and it can be used for anything.
Yeah. So
I just like the way you frame it, because it's it's like using your powers for good.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of the copywriting and marketing courses that I've done. I've taken a lot of stuff from Eben Pagan, and he starts off most of his, if not all of his, marketing and persuasion and copywriting courses with a request for an agreement to be made with him that what he's sharing with you, you will use for the betterment of humanity, not for shady manipulation. So that's something that I really value and that I really stand by in my work and in the people that I study from as well. So yeah, you can definitely use persuasion and manipulation to cause a lot of harm for people. And you can also use it as a tool, because it's just a neutral tool. We're the ones that actually make it positive or negative. We can use it to help people improve their life.
Right. And as I think you just a few years ago, you were doing something completely different. You were doing massage, if I'm correct. How did you change directions? How did you decide to do that? And why copywriting, or why sales versus something else?
Yeah. I was doing massage, Reiki, energy work, healing work, and I just completely burned out. It got to the point where I would have someone on the table in front of me, and I was basically thinking really nasty thoughts about them, because I was completely dissatisfied with what was happening, and it just wasn't the thing that I was supposed to be doing. And during that time, I saw a post on Facebook from a friend looking for a virtual assistant, and reached out to them and just raised my hand as, hey, I can do all the things that you're looking for, and started getting into their business, and realized after working with them for about 3 months that I was doing basically all of the marketing and sales through email, and that I was pretty good at it. And I was getting people enrolled in her program. It was a $5,000 program, and I was just doing it through email conversations. So once I realized that I had this desire to learn, as well as skill that other people were getting excited about, that she was getting excited about. I just decided that I was going to learn. I was going to learn marketing. And from there, found another client as a, what I call like a marketing grunt. I was basically doing everything. And at one point he asked me, after I wrote an email, he asked me, have you ever heard of copywriting? And I just said, no, what's that? Because I wrote this horrible email out to their list. It just got kind of like a slap on the wrist. And from that moment on, I started studying copy and realizing that it was the thing that I got really excited about, and started taking courses and really diving into blogs and books and tons and tons of courses. And I had the opportunity through working with my clients to directly apply what I was learning. So I could go and take a course and learn something, and then the next day or even that day, write an email or a social media post or something like that for a client and really directly see the results of what I was learning and what things were working and what things weren't working. And that was really instrumental, having that direct feedback and direct and immediate feedback in my learning process. And I got to the point where I realized that copywriting, marketing, and sales were all what I call life skills, lifelong skills, that no matter what I would choose to do in the rest of my life, no matter what thing I wanted to do, whether it was starting a brick and mortar business or running a coaching business or starting my own startup or something like that, that the skills of copywriting, sales, and marketing would carry over to anything. So it gave me enough impetus to continue to learn even when things got hard or I didn't understand.
Yeah.
That's how I got started.
So there's a bunch of follow-up questions I have. And just the very first part of your journey, it sounds like you were both experiencing some success, like for the first person you were working as an assistant for, they were liking what you're doing, but then you wrote this email and someone said, do you know copywriting? So like, where were you? Like, did you have some innate ability, or were you just a complete beginner? Like, where did you start?
I started with copywriting. I started as a complete beginner in my mind. I have always had a really good way with words. I was in AP English in high school and just could write essays really, really fast. But the biggest thing that I realized was that I had to untrain myself from my academic writing mind and train myself to just write as a real person. So I started off, in my mind, from zero and just trained myself through trial and error. And there was one course that I did that was the turning point for me, that really took the things that I had been learning in all of my other courses and all of my other work and solidified it into a real skill. Yeah.
You care to share whose course or what course that was?
Yeah, definitely. The course is Copy Hour from Derek Johansson. And the premise of the course is it's 3 months long, and every day for 3 months, he sends you an assignment, and you take 20 minutes to an hour and you hand copy a proven piece of sales copy. So you're actually taking a sales letter that has been proven to convert and proven to actually sell something, and you're hand copying it down into a journal. And at the same time, he's breaking down why all of the concepts are working and what's actually happening in the piece that you're copying, so you can get it into your conscious mind as well as your unconscious mind. So if you study some of the research between your hand and your brain, there's a connection between your index finger and your thumb, that when you write, you're actually writing it. When you write with your index finger and your thumb, you're programming your subconscious mind. So by hand copying sales copy, emails, sales letters, sales pages, all of that kind of stuff, you're actually programming your subconscious mind to think and write in the form of successful copy. And that process of hand copying something for 3 months, I actually did it longer. I did it for about a year.
Whoa.
Not as intensely as during those 3 months, but I did it in total for about a year. And the result of that is I can sit down now and I can write something really fast and trust that it's relatively good copy. So what most people do is they try and sit down and they try and think their way through copy, which is, in my opinion, the total wrong way to do it. The best way, in my opinion, is to get into, as much as possible, a flow state and write from start to finish everything that you possibly can. And then you go back and edit. A lot of people try and edit while they're writing, and it totally breaks your creative flow. So through that process of hand copying, I trained what I call my unconscious mind to actually write highly successful copy without having to think about it. And now I can sit down, write something really, really fast, go back, edit it really quickly, and I can write something really fast. That really
is
good.
So cool. That's like, yeah, it's like the physical skill combined with the mental skill. That's amazing. Do you know what's going on? Like you mentioned the thumb and forefinger thing. Like, do you know anything more about that?
I don't know the exact science. I just know that there is a proven body-mind connection between your thumb and your forefinger, and that that's why kids playing video games are being recruited to do surgery, because they have the really good hand-eye coordination. But there's something about the connection between your fingers, your index finger and your thumb, and your unconscious mind. And so when you do things with your hands, you're actually programming your physical body, your physical self, to understand that thing. It reminds me of an NPR episode that I listened to about studies that were done with people who watched tutorials on YouTube and their confidence in completing the task that they were watching the tutorial for. Mm-hmm. And what they found was that people who watched tutorials on YouTube or any video tutorial had an amazingly high level of confidence of completing the task. But when they actually were told to go and do it, there was a very low success rate. They couldn't do it. The one that I'm thinking of, like, they had people watch training videos of how to do the moonwalk. And then they studied how many people could actually do the moonwalk after watching the video. And after watching the video, they said, everyone that watched it said, I'm really confident that I can do the moonwalk. And then they try and they fail. The difference, though, what they found was that when someone was watching a tutorial video, like learning how to do the moonwalk, and they did anything at all with their body while they were watching the video, their confidence and their rate of success in learning the actual thing that was being taught in the tutorial skyrocketed.
So they could be washing dishes or something like that, and it would help.
You'd be washing dishes, or just like, imagining themselves doing it in their mind, but like moving their body while they were watching. It connected the learning experience to their physical self, their physical body, and allowed them to translate what they were seeing on a screen into their present reality.
That is fascinating. I'm gonna have to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Cool. I was expecting something along the lines of, I know that there's like a different electric currents or potentials with each fingertip, and I was thinking like, oh, because you're gripping the pen and the thumb and forefinger make a closed circuit, and it's like an electrical thing that then changes I don't know. I was thinking more of from the physics side of things, but that could also be a small part of it. But
I mean, I'm sure you're probably right as well.
Yeah.
That's part of what's happening too.
I'm just gonna play like I know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
So one thing that I noticed what you're saying, there's so many interesting threads here, but the testing out right away learning something and then going and using it with your clients seems like it was probably really accelerated the process. Could you talk a little bit more about maybe a specific time you did that, an example of when you got to put something you were learning into practice right away?
Yeah, totally. What comes to mind is I still do it every day because I'm still learning. So I get to do it every day. What comes to mind is when I was writing emails for a launch just even last year. And it was writing emails for a training program for a client, and I had just been going through some learning someone's other course on writing email copy. And so what I did is I went into the course and I looked at all of the templates and examples that the person had been giving and based the emails that I was writing for that launch off of the examples that were given in the course, and then was able to the next week see how it actually performed. And on a specific level, what I did was play with different approaches to talking to people. So in every message, there's some reason why someone is going to read it. And so what I like to do is I like to play with changing the reasons why someone actually reads something. Meaning, what I'm talking about is the hook for reading a message. And so every message that you write has a different hook inside of it, embedded inside of it. And so you can change the hook basically, and you're writing a whole new message, but playing with what types of hooks actually resonate or work with different types of people. So there's some people that like stories. There's some people that like numbers. There's some people that like statistics. There's some people that like instant gratification. Some people that are motivated to move away from pain. And there's some people who are motivated to move towards pleasure, the things that they want. So what I did in this campaign was I started to play with those motivators that we all have. And I started to play with them in the subject lines and the subject lines and the topics that I was talking about in the emails. So I got to see which ones actually work for this audience. And that's just fascinating to me to learn about people and what people respond to.
Yeah. Is there ever a time when it's like, ooh, something is working so well that I want to stop experimenting and just do this home run style because I'd be losing money if I didn't?
No. The best copywriters that I've learned from never stop trying to improve what they've already created. So if they have a piece of copy that's performing really, really well, they will immediately go to work to try and beat it.
Okay. And does that mean that the entire field of copywriting is advancing rapidly?
It's an interesting question.
/ what is the current cutting edge of this field?
Copywriting. What's the current edge of copywriting? I think it has to do with the combination of storytelling and salesmanship. The best pieces of copy usually contain very emotional stories. And so what is starting to happen, and I think we're starting to see this in the big companies are actually starting to do this, is we're having highly impactful short stories that make a direct call to action. And the way that I think that's going to progress is into video games, virtual reality, where we'll have companies basically signing on video game developers to write a story that's designed to sell their product that people actually go through as a game.
Whoa, how would that work exactly?
I'm not totally sure yet, but I mean, imagine reading your favorite novel and at the end of it, there being a call to action to dive deeper into the world and take a course that would actually help you learn something that was talked about in the book, that related to the book. that's a kind of concept. So imagine a video game where at the end you beat the final boss, and then, or like you have to there's a call to action to do the next thing, or learn something, or like take a course to something else. I'm not totally sure how it would look, because
I'm imagining reading a Clive Cussler book and the part where they're scuba diving, and then it's like, oh, and you could learn to scuba dive right now, and you're like, yes, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
love it. Interesting. I'm always fascinated by. So I have this theory. First you're like immersing yourself, like you were doing in the world of salesmanship and copy, and then eventually you understand. Like you've learned from a lot of the experts, and you've done your apprenticeship, like you've put into practice what you're learning, and you get to the cutting edge. And then there's like this open ocean for you to play and explore and use your creativity. And it sounds like that's what you're doing with playing around with different reasons why somebody would open something. So it's pretty cool. You've gone through the cycle of getting good at this really quickly. And there's something you said earlier about, how you just found you were really motivated because you thought this was an important skill, and it was just really interesting. And sometimes we get motivated for things and then it fizzles out. So why is this one so juicy? Like, why are you still eating it up? Why do you love it so much?
I love it so much because I know that whatever I do, I can use the skill. So yeah, same reason that I said before, basically. I'm motivated to continue to learn because for me, marketing and copywriting and sales is understanding humanity and understanding human condition. So I'm fascinated by psychology, by people, what motivates people to change, I think is my core motivation for learning. I get fascinated with how people actually change. I think coaches, small business owners, entrepreneurs, we are the ones who will change and shift this planet away from being highly dependent on fossil fuels, from war, from suffering, basically. And I think it comes down to us understanding how people actually change. And for me, that means to help someone change, you have to understand what motivates them. And if you understand what motivates them, then you can go into their world, into their reality, and connect with them, and then start to present new ideas to them so they come to their own conclusions about how they need to change or how they need to improve their life. So they find the motivation inside of themselves. So it comes down to my core belief that we are the ones who will change this planet for the better. And in order to do that, we need to understand, and I need to understand how people actually change, which means how do people actually get motivated?
Wow. That is really powerful. Is that something that when you're taking a course or when you're testing something out, is that in the back of your mind? Is it in the front of your mind? Are you thinking like, I need to do this for the greater good of humanity? Like, how does that weave its way into your daily work?
It's in the back of my mind, not usually in the forefront. It's in the back of my mind. The way that I think about it is that I get to do this for humanity, more that it's my mission. That I get to learn these skills and then help other people learn them because it's what I get to do. It's something that I enjoy doing. It's something that I like. And yeah, it's more of an honor. I view it as an honor or like something that I get to do because it's what I'm supposed to.
I'm curious about when you were doing massage and energy work, was it the same sort of motivation?
It was the same core motivation, but from a different part of myself. It was from what I thought I should do, not what I wanted to do. It's what I knew how to do to fulfill that part of me that knows I want to be a part of change on this planet. But it was the only thing that I knew how to do at the time to accomplish that desire that I had inside of myself to help people change. So it was coming from the same place, but it was not the right thing.
And where did that come from? Like, here's what I should do, this massage and energy work.
My mom had been a massage therapist, and I grew up at a hot springs that massage therapy and energy work and healing work were a big part of the culture. So I have hippie parents, as I like to say, and I grew up running around naked as a little kid on a hippie commune in Northern California. So I was raised around energy workers, massage therapists, healers, people doing workshops and personal development workshops. Basically the most hippie, California hippie that you can imagine. That was my childhood. So I forgot the question, but yeah. So the massage and the energy work was it was the direction. It was, you know, when most parents say you need to go to school and get a job, that was the equivalent of you need to go to school and get a job.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then have you, like, what do your parents think about your current direction?
They're very supportive of it, and they don't totally understand. I'd understand it all the time, but they're very supportive because they're my parents, and they always encourage me to, you know, follow and do what I love. I think they're a little bit, I haven't actually directly asked them, how do you feel about what I'm doing? I should probably ask them that. That'd be really curious. But I mean, my dad and my stepmom have always been very, like, my dad is a cheesemaker. He makes cheese in Wisconsin, like, legit. He makes some of the best cheese in the country. But he decided he intentionally stayed small. So his brothers set up $1 million cheese making businesses, but he decided to stay small on purpose because he didn't want the complications that came with hiring employees and running a larger business. So my dad's philosophy is really, you know, enough is enough. You don't need to take more. You don't need to have more. So I do have a part of me that wonders if, you know, me choosing to go in the direction of business, sales, and marketing is kind of against their core philosophy. But at the same time, I know he's happy to see me happy. I to be honest, I have a healthy part of me that is I have a healthy amount of greed. I don't think greed is necessarily bad or wrong. I have a healthy part of me that wants to make a lot of money, to be involved in big things. And that's what I like doing because it lights me up and makes me excited.
Yeah.
I like helping people make money, and I like to make money.
Yes. I like that too. I'm curious, what identity from growing up as on this hippie commune, like, do you still really hold on to and love about yourself?
I'm a healer. That's something that will never go away. That's a core part of my identity. And I bring that same mentality into the work that I do with marketing. That's where my definition of sales comes in, is I'm helping someone make a choice that's going to improve their life, make them more whole, which is the definition of healing. That's
amazing.
Thanks.
Let's talk some copywriting specifics. You know, a lot of people have been posting on social media if they're entrepreneurs, or, you know, whether we're trying to be persuasive in writing or like trying to get our kids to do something, you know, and a lot of entrepreneurs are writing emails to their list, et cetera, et cetera. What are some of the first things you tweak or change or teach to people who are already in the process of trying to be persuasive in their writing? What are the first things that you change?
Totally. The first thing that I change is I add more white space. So a lot of people have a habit of writing in really blocky text, and it's really hard for someone's eyes to get into that. it just turns off people's brains. So the first thing that I do is I basically go to town with the return key and add more white space. And usually just that makes it look a lot better and it's a lot easier to read. And then after that, I start shortening their sentences down. So getting them down to having one contained idea per sentence. So you're not using a lot of commas, you're not using a lot of punctuation beyond periods. I often recommend people when they're first starting out writing copy and they want to use a comma, instead just replace it with a period. And really encourage people to use shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, shorter and sometimes smaller words, because they're more impactful for people. A single contained idea that someone can wrap their mind around is much more impactful than a long, complex sentence that contains 10 ideas that people can't understand and they have to sift through. So the first thing I do is help them simplify their writing down to making simple points that really make an impact.
And that's the sort of the unlearning of the academic writing style that you were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
My high school English teacher, I write with a lot of dashes, something that I learned from Vonnegut. And so I have these like ridiculously long sentences that are essentially multiple sentences. And she was like, don't do that. And I was like, whatever, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be a writer and I'm going to write with dashes. And now that's what I do. But then it's something that I'm like trying to untrain, because yes, I've heard and I've seen, when you first see an email from someone, you're like, why is there, they're just like, each paragraph is one sentence. You're like, what is going on? They're writing so different. And it is different. But if it's easier, then it totally makes sense.
Yeah. It's a lot easier for people to read short sentences. The sad truth is that the average American reads at a 5th grade level. And most people try to speak in this academic language that's going to fly right past most people. And I know if you're in coaching or you're usually in business, you're not usually writing to like the average American, that 5th grade level. So I do recommend a really great app is called the Hemingway app. If you just do a quick search, I can send you the link to it to have it in the show notes. Mm-hmm. You can copy and paste your text in there and it shows you, it'll highlight the really long sentences, and tell you the grade level. And I recommend you try and get your writing down to a grade level of a 5 to 7. That's really, really helpful. And yeah, to get it down there, you have to use smaller sentences, shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, that kind of stuff. So that's really helpful.
I learned somewhere that the simpler you speak or write, the people actually think you're smarter. The lower you go in terms of grade level and the shorter words you use, etc., which is definitely counterintuitive. And I was kind of surprised by that. Why do you think that is?
I think it is because the more simply we speak, the easier we understand. And so the shorter our sentences and the shorter our words, easier it is for people to actually consume, which follow that we actually know what we're talking about when we're talking, because people are understanding us. I was listening to one of your past episodes about charisma and how you were saying one of the things, what's that?
That's great. Someone's listening.
Yeah. You talked about in the episode on charisma about how when you speak slower, when you add more space between your words, people pay attention and listen to you. And you gave the example of Will Smith on a talk show and how there's all these other famous actors up there, but when Will Smith would talk, he would have this slower paced way of talking that everyone would pay attention to. And I think it's the same concept, that you would think that if you speak slower, people think you're more simple or you're less complex, you're less intelligent. But I think it's the same concept, that the more space and the slower you are, the more people think that you're confident, because you know what they feel like you know what you're talking about.
Interesting. So we're making it simple. We're making it easy to read, easy to understand. That's sort of undoing, whatever academic we've been taught. Then what's the next layer?
Know who you're talking to. If you don't know who you're talking to, your words will not talk to anyone. They won't land with anyone. So you have to really get into the mind and emotions of the person that you're talking to and to write directly to them. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're writing copy or they're starting out writing copy is they try to write to all of the people that are a possible prospect for their thing. So they try to write to everybody. They try to make sure everyone can relate to it. They try to write to all these different people. And what happens when you do that is you're actually writing to nobody. You're just writing to a group. And the reality is that when someone is reading a Facebook post or reading an email, they're reading it alone. You're actually talking directly to that one person. So the biggest thing that you can do to improve your writing is to pick one person to write to. And I know a lot of people, if you study copywriting, they're like, yeah, of course, like pick your avatar and write only to your avatar. It's kind of hard for people to do that, I've found, though. So what I recommend doing is picking someone in your life that is someone that you enjoy writing to, that really enjoys reading your writing, especially if you're just starting out, so you can keep that confidence in there. Like maybe it's your sister, and your sister always loves what you write. Write everything to your sister, and then use that writing to send to your list or post on social media or send as a text, So that's a really easy way to bypass this kind of amorphous concept of the avatar, is to just pick one real person in your life. If you're in business and you're, say, a coach, and you get off of a sales call with someone who gives you an objection, immediately sit down at your computer and write an email to that person, or write a post to that person, or write a message to that person, answering the objection that they gave you directly to them, and then you can use that and send it out to your entire audience. And that's a really powerful way to answer objections. But the power of it is that you're really answering it. You're really answering one person's objection. And what happens when you write to one person is everyone can actually relate to it, because there's kernels of truth in everyone's experience. So when you're writing to one person, even if I might not have directly experienced a story that you're using, or I might not have directly experienced the thing that you're talking about, because you're being specific, I can, as the reader, put myself into that situation and empathize with it. What most people try and do is they try and make it fit everybody, and then nobody can relate to it because it's not actually relatable. It's not personal. So you want to get personal and write to that one person.
Okay, I'm just trying to imagine right now writing to a single person, and in just imagining it, it seems like I would slide into trying to write to everybody. Like I would start off, personal email to so-and-so, and then because I know I'm trying to sell something or get people to do something, I feel like it would like blend into writing. I don't know. It sounds kind of hard.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know where exactly you write, but my first thought is I would recommend, like, if you're actually writing an email that you want to send out to an email list, to write it to one person where you're used to writing email, such as in Gmail, so that it bypasses that part of your brain that comes online when you get into a Google Doc or a Word document, and gets your brain into the mindset of, oh, I'm writing an email right now to one person. And so you really just stay true to that one person. Part of the ability to do that comes from the confidence that comes from writing more. So the ability that I developed through hand copying sales copy, it's just through hand copying stuff.
Yeah.
allows me to get into a flow state so that I can sit down and write that email to someone right off the cuff without slipping into the other mindset of writing to a bunch of people. So if you catch yourself writing to a bunch of people, just go back and delete everything and start from where you were writing to one person. Or just catch yourself, don't do anything and just start from wherever you caught yourself and keep writing, but bring it back to the one person and making points specifically to that person. And then after you finish writing, go back and just go and edit it.
Okay. It's really interesting that I used to put a picture when I was recording solo round podcasts of a good friend up on the wall in front of me, and I would just talk to the picture, and that's how it worked with the audio. But then I had never done something similar in the writing, but it's basically the same thing, like talking to a specific person.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Put a picture of them up, pull up their Facebook profile and look at their face while you're writing to them.
I really want to do this for my next book. The target audience for my next book includes myself and also a lot of my friends. And so I think it'll be super easy if I can really write it to certain people.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to be testing that out when I write Experience the Revolution.
Yeah. I've also found that in writing and whatever I'm writing, that when I really write to one person, my writing, it's actually a lot easier. That if you get stuck in writer's block per se, like usually I only get stuck in writer's block if I'm forgetting that I'm writing to one person. If I'm writing to one person and I'm really clear on who that is, I don't get stuck because I know exactly what they're working on and what they're struggling with and what they want. And it's really easy for me to just connect right in with. But if I'm like trying to speak to all of these people, I get overwhelmed because I'm trying to balance all of these different wants, needs, dreams, and desires. And I can't actually speak to any of them because I'm trying to speak to all of them. So it's a lot easier to get into the flow state when you're just talking to that one person.
And every time I talk to you, I get a lot of good ideas. So the one that just came to me was like, my clients are a fertile ground for, I could pick something that's coming up for all the clients this week, and just assume that's going to be coming up for other people that aren't yet my clients, and address that like I already would have with an existing client.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If I was doing that, like picking up on what groups of people or what patterns were starting to emerge in the people I was working with, I would speak directly to the thing that's happening, like name the pattern or name the issue that's coming up. And then I'd share some thoughts or share some opinions about it and share a perspective on how to address it. And then pretty easily make a transition into, if you want to really solve this, or you want to permanently remove this bad, annoying, painful thing from your life, sign up for a call.
Love it. God, it's so cool when it's this transition that you have, when it's like, as you explain it, it's this smooth transition. The logical next step is you hire me or buy my thing or whatever. Let's wrap, because you have so many great things to teach. Can't all fit in this episode. Let's wrap with how you transition into that call to action, if you could.
Definitely. There are many different ways to transition. The one that I like the most is using a simple if-then statement. You can use it for pretty much anything that you're writing. And the format of that is just using a very simple if-then statement at the end of your message as the transitionary statement from whatever point you're making in the rest of your message to the call to action. And so the way that would look would be, say I'm writing an email to someone who's struggling with their writing subject lines. I might write a subject line that's talking, how to write subject lines people open. Very simple subject line, speaking to a problem, speaking to a solution / problem that they have. I would talk about subject lines, really talk about the problem of not having good open rates. How does that actually feel? What's the impact of that in your business? What's the long-term impact of that in your business? And then I would transition using a statement along the lines of, if you're ready to get the open rates you can, then click the link below and sign up for a open rate breakthrough consultation session. A link to the session.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a really simple way. The if-then statement is a really simple way to transition from whatever point you're making in your message to the call to action that you have. It's a really easy way to connect pieces, connect ideas together. And the key to it is connecting the if. What you say after the if is really important. So you want to say something along the lines of, if you want to get more of what you want, or if you want to get less of the pain that you're experiencing, then do this action. So you're associating the fulfillment of their desires or the reduction of their pain with the action that you're asking them to take. So you're no longer just asking them to sign up for a call. You're asking them, you're directing them, you're giving them the path to achieve more of what they want, to get more of their desires met, or to reduce the pain that they're experiencing by taking the action that you're asking them to take.
So simple, so straightforward. And it takes me back to my logic and reasoning math classes. And it's like, replacing symbols, if then symbol, always true, false.
Yeah.
It's like the basics of logic and reasoning right there. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
What is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think is important for people to know about copywriting in general, or about you, that I haven't asked you yet?
I think I could go on and on about all of the things.
Clearly you do love this.
Yeah. The most important thing is to not overthink things. A lot of the times when people are starting to learn copy, they get caught in the formulas and the step-by-step and like the structures of things. And the most important thing is to write in the way you talk, write as you are. So write things right from your heart. Like there's what's going to work are words that create emotion for people. And if you're trying to follow a specific formula, you're all of a sudden out of your heart, out of your emotional center, and you're in your head. So the most important thing is to stay centered in your emotional self and be tapped in and tuned into your emotional self and your emotional reality. And also the emotional reality of the people that you're talking to. And when you can write from your heart and you have a clear channel from your emotional self to whatever you're reading, that means you have a clear emotional connection with the person that's consuming it and reading it. And the emotional connection is what causes people to take action. If you can't create an emotional connection with someone, they're not going to take action because they're going to be stuck in their mind just as you're stuck in your mind. So the more connected you are to your reasons why you do what you do, and the more connected you are to your emotion behind whatever you're writing, your own passion, the more you help other people feel the same sense of passion. Because I think that's what we all really want in our life. We want to feel a sense of being turned on, being alive. And we want to feel, even if we don't consciously say that. So remember to feel and allow yourself to feel, and let that passion and that desire to help or desire for whatever you're doing, even if you're selling water filters, get emotional about it. And that will do more for your writing in your business than any formula or any step-by-step process of copywriting that anyone could ever give you. Because all those formulas do are just structured ways of creating emotion. So if you can tap into your own emotion first and then add in a structure, then you're miles ahead of everyone else. And the reason why I say all of that is because emotion is emotion, energy in motion. So if you can help someone feel something, they are far more likely to take action and move forward.
And I'm just curious if you have a specific way of getting in your heart, of making sure you're in an emotional place.
I make sure that I work out consistently so that I get out of my head. Other than that, what I like to do when I'm doing a really intense or like a larger writing project is I connect to the reason why I'm doing this, the reason why my client is reason why my client is offering the thing that I'm writing about. And I do a little meditation where I get my own egoic self out of the way. I ask my egoic self to step aside for a little bit and just become an observer. And I let myself become or take on the energetic aspects of the emotional aspects of the person that I'm writing to, so that I can feel their emotional self. And if I really can't do that, then I will stomp around my apartment and wave my hands in the air and make some noises. Beat a pillow or get vocal. For me, I like to get vocal when I'm not tapped into things. So movement, vocalizing, writing things out. Yeah, it helps to just sit down and journal or brain dump a bunch of blah, 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 blah stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. It's an entertaining image.
Yeah. Especially when I'm writing in my underwear, and then it's really funny.
I'm imagining you donning a cape, like you're in your underwear writing. You're like, I just need to go screaming, putting on my cape, like nobody come in. Or maybe please come in. I don't know.
Depends on who it is, Yeah. If it's my sweetie Robin, then that's great. You can come in, but I don't know.
Chen, this has been really fun and very insightful as always. Really, really appreciate all of your insight. Where can people find you online? How can people learn more about you?
You can learn more about me on my website, chenlehner.com. That's ChenLehner. I'm very Swiss. That's a very Swiss last name. Well, my dad's side of the family is Swiss. That's the best place to connect with me. Hence the cheese.
Wonderful. My family is also Swiss, hence my excuse for eating lots of chocolate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Please continue. You were telling us, go to chenlehner.com.
Oh yeah, chenlehner.com. And I have on later this month, I think on Monday, the 27th, I'm starting a free 5-day challenge helping people tap into their core message, the message that they want to broadcast out to their audience, to attract their ideal audience, their ideal customers. A lot of the times people struggle with figuring out what to actually say to people to get them to come to buy their stuff. So this 5-day challenge will help you find that core message that you can base all of the rest of your messages on, and make it really clear what you're actually doing and what you're actually offering and why people should actually show up. So if you're interested in joining me for that, I'd love to have you.
I'm in. I'll do it.
Yes. Awesome.
All right. Chen, thanks so much. Great to have you on.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Wow, really love that episode with Chen. Hopefully you got some good ideas for your next email newsletter or social media post or ad campaign. And also you can see the some of the key things that it takes to get really good at something really fast. And if you like this episode, if it was helpful for you, the previous episode with Nicholas Cole might be another good one. He teaches you how to write viral articles. So very similar if you're into the writing side of entrepreneurship right now. And if you're an entrepreneur or a founder or a thought leader and you're working on something right now that you're running a business that's never really been done before, and there's not really a clear path, and you're struggling to figure out exactly how to make it all work, to take advantage, there's a lot of things that you could do, or maybe you had a lot of momentum and you're struggling with motivation. These are some of the things that I really help my entrepreneur clients with. So if you want to do a free strategy session with me, then we can set that up. You just go to derekloudermilk.com and you can apply for a business strategy session with me. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. That's all for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Now go out there and be adventurous.